So my name is Rachel. I am a licensed mental health counselor, yoga instructor, EMDR, therapist, all sorts of things. I've been working in conjunction with Pineapple Support almost since the beginning, probably about 3 years now. Um, so basically, we're here to talk about why do we love sex work? Why do we love the industry? Having these nice, positive conversations instead of the critical ones that we always see out there in the world, people not understanding the industry, people having these really interesting thoughts about why people are in it, or always making it a story that it's really not, and trying to kind of hijack the narrative. So I am here joined by some lovely individuals to kind of have this conversation and kind of educate the masses and just celebrate the industry. So I will have a couple of questions to guide everyone. Um, if you feel comfortable answering, we can do a little bit of a round robin or whatever works. And I want to give space and time for people to talk about what they love. So we can go around and have introductions whenever you're ready.
Do we just jump in? So I'm Lotus Lane, she, her pronouns, and I've been a performer for 10 years. I've done producing and writing in the industry, and I'm the industry advocate at Free Speech Coalition. So my role is mostly to kind of communicate to them the issues that are, burning most in the community. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Lotus. It's nice to see you again, too. I got excited. All right, whoever would like to go next, Callum and Cole or Ella?
Yeah, we'll go. Can you hear us? Yeah. Hey, I'm Cole.
And I'm Callum.
And we're a duo. We do cams and clips, and we're also ambassadors for Pineapple Support.
Cool, glad to have you.
Thanks.
Hey, I'm Ella. I am in bed with COVID-19 at the moment, so pardon me for not having my camera on, but we're fighting through as we do. I've been an adult film performer for just over 13 years. I've been an advocate and an activist in our community for several years, and I've pioneered some of the VR live streaming in the adult industry, and that's kind of my background.
Thank you, Ella. I hate that you feel the way that you do, so feel free to jump in, or if you lose your voice and want to just throw something into the chat, obviously everyone feel free to do what is most comfortable for you. Obviously, when we do a little bit of round robin, you can always let me know if you're like, don't really want to answer that, or other than that, I kind of just let the awkwardness seep in, and then people will unmute whenever they so choose. For people that are kind of observing, please feel free to use the Q&A throughout. That this is a conversation, so I have some thought pieces, but other than that, I'm sure that other people, if you have a question, more people do. So feel free to ask it. If you have anything general, just use the chat. You should be able to send it to myself, panelist, both, specific, so whatever you need to do. But to kind of kick this off, I want to ask kind of a maybe heartwarming question. Maybe not. Maybe that's silly. What does the sex work community mean to you? Kind of broad, kind of vague, but curious to see your thoughts.
For me, the sex worker community is uplifting and supportive. We're a group of people who are stigmatized in a similar way, and in some cases, that's all we really have in common. But in some cases, that's all we need to have in common. I feel like the sex worker community really looks out for each other. When we find out someone is one of our own, we extend an arm to, extend a hand to help them out. And working alongside other sex workers in my career has really just forged a really strong sense of connection to that community, which I really appreciate and also miss at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was beautiful, Ella. For me, the sex worker community is like a group of like really creative people that do what they have to do and do what they can do and do with what they have, and they're very resourceful, and know how to make money in a variety of different ways. And I don't know, I feel like we're smart. We're like Ella said, we are stigmatized, and that's one of the only thing many of us do have in common. But many of us just, I don't know, I feel like we have also kind of like this sense of like trying to do something bold or different or maybe a little risky. Like we have this like adventurous side to us. That's something too that I kind of find that we all have in common, and I love that about us. At all the different levels, we're like risk takers willing to try something new. So yeah, I mean, that goes not just for, like from fetishes and kink and sex stuff, or like what we're willing to do in work, but like what we're willing to try in technology terms and stuff like that. Like Ella's like someone that pioneered VR. Like many industry like entities started like PayPal and like all these other Snapchat things like got them to be popular. So I feel like we're like innovators in a way. Like we're always trying new things and we're like at the forefront, even though it may be denied. That's what I see in us. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with both points that were just made. They were
Hello.
very valid.
Yes, finally. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm
welcome.
really late, but I had technical problems with the link. I couldn't open, and then Zoom
Okay.
decided to refresh himself. Sorry.
Okay.
Um,
I can kind of obviously feel free. If you want to answer on the question, you can do an intro and then respond if you want, or whatever feels comfortable. But kind of the question that we've all been round robin kind of talking about is, what does the sex work community mean to you?
Okay. Well, my name is SABIEN DEMONIA. I'm very late. Usually that doesn't happen to me, but this time I'm like in tour, currently not at home. So excuse me. So what does it mean for me? I mean, it means everything. Like my work is my life, is my passion. Everything what I do is connected with it. Like I've been doing it for like 4 or 5 years now. Technically, technically I was doing it longer. If we assume that being a fetish model is also part of the industry, I guess we can. Then technically, since I remember, I was always doing it. I started my career when I was like literally out of school, and until now I'm continuing and progressing and like discovering another parts of the industry, and every single one is more and more exciting for me. So for me it's very, very important part of my life, crucial action.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everyone kind of drew some threads together, is that it's given you opportunities that you never knew you might have, to meet people you have never met any other way. And I appreciate some of the characteristics that Lotus mentioned, the adventurousness, some risk taking. I mean, when, I'm retired from the industry, so I'm not going to act like I'm the spokesperson on this, but when you've done or have done or do the work that we do in this industry, it's kind of no holds barred, right? Like you just everything's out there. So I think we end up being kind of no bullshit people. Like I always tell people when they're like, "Oh, what type of clients do you work with, Rachel? Like what type of therapy?" I'm like, "Oh, my number one is like people in the adult industry," and they're always like, scandalized, or like have this weird responses. And they're like, "Well, what is that? What are they coming to you for?" And I'm like, "Well, you do not understand that these are people, right? Like they just anything that's going on, they have going on." And they're like, "Well, why do you like doing that work?" I'm like, "Well, they never bullshit me. They're like, here's what I want to do and how I'm going to do it, and let's go." There's no like dancing around the subject. It's like, I know what I want. Let's get it done. You know, so the motivation is there because I think, you know, you kind of have to. And I think this community can be very, very loving and understanding more than people, I think about it, you know, when they're kind of looking from the outside. Okay, so another kind of offshoot of that question, might need to chew one for a second, is what lessons has this industry taught you about yourself, about others, about the world, however you choose to answer that, if you want to answer all of those? What have you really learned?
Since I was the last one, then I will be first one with this one. To keep it balanced, okay? Well, technically, it teach me how to be organized, because since we all are ourselves bosses, accountants, all that stuff, then it required a lot of discipline, technically, because practically we don't have to do nothing. So we kind of have to be responsible for our time schedule, for our planning, for having the schedule for the event and how much time we can spend, like also how much time we can spend actually off work, which is kind of difficult since we do a lot of work, or actually technically almost all of it online. So organizing your time to not be at work all the time is very challenging, and it's something I'm still kind of work on it. I still didn't, pristine this part of my life, but I'm getting better with it every day, I guess. And also motivation for the work, finding the interesting, different approach towards content. So being creative, it gives me a lot of creative space, and required a lot of creative juices to make it work for myself. So technically, it taught me a lot about myself internally too. What I like, what sort of things I enjoy. I wasn't even aware of how many kinks I have. So it's also very eye-opening when you meet other people and you talk about it, and it's like you said, there is no bullshit, so you can actually ask questions that will never be something normal in between people who are more prude, I would say. So you can actually openly talk with your friends about all sorts of sexual topics. So that's really cool to feel the freedom. Yeah, technically, I will shut up because I will never shut up otherwise.
No, your answers are great. I love that. So I heard creativity, motivation, organization, kind of some of the broader ranges. I just wanted to ask before I kind of let everyone go back to the topic, is who here was born organized? Probably no one, right? So I feel like that's you have to, kind of like you said, like if you don't, you'll kind of suffer the consequences if you don't manage your schedule, if you don't manage your clientele, your marketing, your accounting, every single job under the sun, then, it gets hard. So back to the topic at hand. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from this industry? And I do see we have a Q&A. That'll be our next question. So whoever wants to go next.
I think for myself, it's made me realize I'm more of a confident person than what I thought I was before. Getting into the sex industry, I've realized I'm much more confident than I thought I was, definitely. And going back to Sabien's point, I think it also makes you grow up much faster because you've got so much things that you've got to sort out yourself and try put into place. So yeah, definitely for me, it's helped me grow up and realize that I'm more confident.
For me, some of the lessons I've learned is sex workers seem to be the most accepting people I've ever been around in my life. You know, I've been in a lot of different work industries and in a lot of different scenes and stuff, and people are really harsh, but like we accept so many different types of people, and it taught me all about gender and you know, things that I wouldn't know about, like in a complex way, and the pronouns and all of that stuff, like how to respect people's different identities, and just even understanding like all of the different kinks that are out there. And like, you know, I guess it just made me into a more accepting person too. I think like people on the outside world are really judgmental of just like each other and each other's desires, and like here we're really open about whatever your desires are. Like if there's like some kinks or whatever, like, you know, there's something for everybody. So I don't know, like I think the lessons that I've learned is like the openness in the community is really cool. And just like you can learn just also like how to respect all of the consent and boundaries things that I know about to this day. Like it all started within sex work, within kink and BDSM kind of sex work. So like those things aren't really talked about outside of this. And that's what I think is really amazing, because now in society it's becoming like a thing. But like I really think it originates from like the way certain sex work behaviors or like kinky behaviors, you know, how they have to go down. And I think that's awesome. So,
This industry, pardon me, this industry in some ways has felt like finishing school for me. I got media literacy training, not media literacy, just media training, back in one of those cycles where we were lobbying for laws in California or against laws in California. But it also helped me grow from being sort of a meek and shy and introverted young adult into a an adult woman who is capable of, kind of like Lotus said, establishing and standing by boundaries and understanding other people and their needs and boundaries, you know, with subtle communication. It's really done a lot to open me up in terms of just engaging with other people socially and reading a room. Because when you do this kind of work, you become very familiar with like physical tells and the things that people do when they're feeling a certain way. And that's been really cool because I can sort of help mediate someone who's feeling uncomfortable or what have you in any given situation. Plus, there's just like it's a massive set of skills, you know, editing, production, everything. It's a whole career. But for me, the biggest, most outstanding part has been sort of like learning how to be a little bit more of a social butterfly.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like those skills that like you really kind of can't learn unless you do them or see them exhibited over and over again, kind of like the openness, the acceptance, boundaries, some of those social skills. It lets you do it in a way where it can be a little bit, depending on what type of work you do, a little bit bite-sized. Like if you're doing more cam work, I feel like you might have more exact control over how much you're engaging with that, where sometimes with some in-person work, I mean, they both obviously have similarities and differences, but they both ask a lot of you. Like you have to wear a lot of different hats. It's performance, it's interaction, it's engagement, but also having to protect yourself too. Like I know a lot of people that have worked on boundary issues in the industry. Some people are just ace at it. They don't take anything from anybody. They're like, nope, nope. They curate their space and that's it. And I find that with more people that are like veterans in the industry. And then I've worked with a lot of new people that are like, am I allowed to set boundaries? Or like, will I lose money? Or what's going to happen? And kind of working on this idea of, you know, accepting oneself and setting your own limits and boundaries will ultimately lead to the best version of yourself in this industry. But that doesn't mean that it's an easy route. But I think what you guys said, I remember, I think it was Callum Cole who mentioned, like, you have to grow up. Like, it doesn't exactly age you per se, because I feel like everyone's very kind of youthful and fun and in touch with themselves, but you've got to pick up things quickly or else it kind of all goes downhill, you know, and that's why I think it's that crash course because everything's there all the time. Like you interact with everyone under the sun typically until you can maybe get to a point where you're really choosy about stuff. But overall, you learn about everyone's everything. And you have to kind of adapt and adjust and be open and hopefully be able to apply that to yourself as well. Okay, so there is a really cool question here. I think everyone can see it. If not, I will read it. So Amanda here has asked you all, what parts of yourself are strengthened through sex work? So feel free to pontificate on that. I know we've kind of touched on some of them, but if there's something distinct you can really think of that you maybe wouldn't have if you weren't in this line of work.
Well, I think my self-discipline has strengthened, you know, like in all areas, because you have to be like self-disciplined to keep your looks up, you know, whatever look it is that you're trying to keep up, you know. Discipline in how you maintain your business, like everybody keeps saying, like all your accounting and all of that stuff. Discipline and how you keep your structure of like your schedule of like your filming or either your streaming or whatever it is that you're offering to your fans, and being consistent with that. Like all of that is like self-discipline. So yeah, that's definitely been strengthened.
Yeah, well, for me, I guess we already kind of touched on this one. But I think the boundaries thing, like an entire like experience, sexual experience in general, you know, like my identity, sexual and the identity was grow. Like I technically discovered it thanks to this work, and I figure my ways. And I mean, I'm still kind of learning. It's always the learning curve with that, and you know, like getting actually know other people and what they do and how they do it and everything about the like also the health, sexual health. I didn't even know I'm so clueless about it actually until I didn't really start talking with people who've been more in industry and they've been already like professionals for years. So a lot of knowledge, I guess, that I would never get so deeply. The understanding actually of sexuality changed completely for me too. And like you mentioned, like also the entire gender and like all of this was completely new to me when I started. It was like some sort of abstract concept that I didn't necessarily knew even how to apply to myself and how to understand. And now I have a lot of knowledge about it.
I would say my sense of autonomy and agency have been strengthened as a result of my work in sex work or in the sex work industry. You know, I touched on boundaries before, but just really kind of when I step into the role of Ella Darling, I feel a sense of strength and a sense of purpose, not purpose, but just sort of, I feel very commanding and very much like someone who will speak up for herself in a way that the me before Ella existed might not. So I would say this industry has really strengthened my resolve in a lot of ways, and made me a better advocate for myself and for others.
For me, I would just go back to saying confidence, and I would being like confident in being able to achieve things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like, you know, the kind of confidence and the self-worth and independence. Um, you know, there are some things that I don't feel like you can learn until you have this experience. And I know a lot of people that have become completely different than what they would have expected. You know, if they were to ask their 12-year-old self, 16-year-old self, 18-year-old self, like, who am I and what am I going to be? Like, sometimes they end up kind of like in that exploratory phase, they end up doing different things, like doing like doming work, or they end up like a completely different gender than they thought they were going to be, or they kind of open up their relationship. Or I'm not saying that that is like the cause and effect, but I feel like you get exposed to so much. And I find that people in the industry are just much more willing to look inward and potentially open themselves up to, like, we're all works in progress, and sometimes we change considerably, or sometimes not, or we strengthen things. And like, you guys are always very open to that, you know, just willing to not be static, like, this is me and that's how it is, and these are my beliefs, and this is how I'm going to be until I'm like 80 years old. I never see that. It's always like, well, who knows, there could be a possibility. So I think the flexibility, I think, is what keeps everyone, you know, doing as best as they can. You know. All right. So we will mark that question as done. What do you guys wish that people that are unfamiliar or judgmental, you know, the people that really have they think they have all the answers about the industry? We've all heard it. You know, you're in it because of your bad childhood, or because you can't make money, or because, you know, oh, you think you like it but you don't, or you know, all these like gaslighting weird things that you guys, I'm sure, have heard 1,000 times. Those types of people, what do you wish they knew?
It's just a fucking job, yo. Like, it's just a job, man. You know, like, we don't need to pathologize anything. We don't need to bring doctors into it. We don't need to it's a job. And anything that you want to apply to my job, you can just easily apply to any other job where someone is, you know, exerting any kind of physical labor, in any industry. And, you know, that's, at the end of the day, I am performing a labor in exchange for, you know, money. And that's kind of all. We don't need to make it something it's not. That's kind of my thought.
I think it would be also very good if they would realize that persona on internet, or the performer, it's like what is performance and what is the person, because this is two different things. We are performers, and that's a performance for someone. So we kind of put some sort of face and some character there, but behind that there's a person who not necessarily in real life is exactly the same. And like, the fact that on internet you can see me doing things doesn't apply to being done to me offset, for example, because I do got a lot of people sending me messages, even when I like went to the gym or something. Oh, I saw you in the gym. Next time I will come over and I will like grab your tits and kiss you and stuff, because I know you like it rough. And it's like, well, I'm not at my work, so please understand that my private life is not your business, and I wouldn't appreciate that at all, since it's not what I want to, you know, experience while being in my private space, let's say. So they should understand there is a private space, and we need this private space, and we can't be like bothered or anything with any sexual stuff when we are not at work. So technically, a lot of people should understand that we deserve normal life offline without being sexualized when we are not actually aiming into being sexualized. So technically, the fact that I'm a porn star or whatever doesn't give anybody right to be sexual towards me when I'm in, I don't know, supermarket I'm eating with my family at dinner or anything like it, because this is not right. It's actually very not only disrespectful, but completely neglecting that we also have boundaries, and we also have our no-goes, and we also have our private lives when we are not feeling comfortable with other people trying to do things, let's say this way. So yeah, a little bit more of understanding that that performance is performance, and actual person behind it, it's not always at work. We don't work 24/7. We also sometimes don't work technically.
I mean, yeah, I would just go on to echo like what Ella was saying. Like, it's just a job like anybody else's job. There's people in other jobs too that have all the other, all the stereotypes that you would think of a porn star. There's people in a regular, respectable job that have gone through those things too. Like, people go through things and they become who they become. I don't think it has any correlation of like, you have to have a bad childhood to end up a porn star, or like have these like stereotypical things have happened to you to end up like the way people think in the adult industry or doing porn. Many of us are just curious, and that's like why we like doing what we're doing, or like I said before, adventurous. But as far as like what people think, I really don't subscribe to what they think. Like, if it's being said, like if it's an article, I usually try not to click on it. I don't watch like documentaries like Hot Girls Wanted and stuff like that. I don't give views to things like that. Like, to me, like, people's opinions in that realm don't exist, because they invalidate us all the time. So I'm willing to talk to people that have open minds, that are willing to talk and engage and debate, but people that just want to like put their opinion on what our lives are like, over hearing any of us, like speaking to any of us, or like really knowing any of us, I don't even pay attention to people like that.
And I did see Callum and Cole go off camera, so they may need a second, but question is still open. Yeah, I've always been fascinated by the like concept that I feel like people are not living in reality sometimes. I'm like, okay, like this, and it happens with anyone who performs in any industry, like people that act, people that sing, people, it's like this concept of like, this is you. This is always you all the time. And you do this type of work for me, right? So therefore, I have access to you and can request that at any time. And yet, when it comes to their own personal life, that's not the case. It's like they go
People
to
are
their,
especially like that with entertainers, like entertainer people, like for some reason they like project this image upon us that we're always ready to entertain, like we're always ready, like we're always for them, like this idea that they have of us. Like you said, whether it's actor, singer, performer, they think like that's how you live your life, and that's not. It's like how you make money. That's how we make our money, but that's not how we live our lives. Like, still want to go to the gym, go to the grocery store, go hiking, and be unbothered if we don't want to talk to people.
yes. Yeah, I think that's so interesting is that like, and thank you, you touched on the word. I was like, anyone who's gone to any of my like, talks or anything that I've been in, I will say projection, projection. Like that is my favorite word because that's what people are doing almost all the time. And it's interesting that like they'll put that on people, and they're usually, I mean, we can really get into the weeds of it tends to be with usually certain genders or types of people, where they're like, oh, this is all you do all the time and that's what I can expect of you. But they wouldn't want someone to do that to them. Like, say take an attorney, they get up in their outfits and they go to their office and they meet with clients and do this and do that. But when they go home, they're like, please stop, that's done. Like I get maybe some enjoyment from it, which I think a lot of people, in the industry get enjoyment from their work, but it's when things align, as in they have a level of control, there's safety, there's good, customers and clients, there's, mutual support. Not just, hey, you said hello to me on the street. That does not meet the criteria of I want to do that right now. And just I hope that someday the average Joe person will understand the duality of people, especially entertainers and performers, that person is that sometimes, but they're not always that. And when they're that, there's criteria that's being met. And let's humanize people, because even, the dehumanizing and fetishizing are kind of two sides of the same coin. Just because one sounds positive, if you're like idealizing someone, like this is my dream person, and maybe one day I'll see them in the street, like that's not as positive as it sounds, because we're not humanizing the person, to their own choice. So hopefully there will be a day where we can know that we can respect someone and enjoy their performance.
On that note, you wouldn't, like, if you saw your doctor at Whole Foods, you wouldn't walk over and show them a boil on your ass and ask their opinion in the middle of Whole Foods, because they're clearly not at work right now. And that's not the appropriate venue for your personal boil. Anyway, I like illusions.
Nope. It's a good one. No, I agree. And like as a therapist, I get that sometimes. Not from my clients, especially not my industry clients. They're like, hey, you're doing you, whatever. But like strangers, I'll get that. They'll be like, oh, you're a therapist? Well, let me tell you. I'm like, Emma, is it not 4 a.m. and I'm trying to get to the airport? Is it time for that right now? So I'm sure we can all understand where we're like, I'm just trying to exist. But yeah, lots of lessons for non-industry folks, and we'll get there minute by minute. That's why we're here. So, which I think a couple of people are off camera, so I don't know what that means right now, but okay. Hey, we'll see. I am wondering, what is y'all's favorite thing about being in this field? Like, what would you not trade for the world? Maybe it's something it gives you, an opportunity it's given you, something that's happened in the past, the lifestyle you live, drawing upon stuff from earlier, what you've learned about yourself. What would you not trade for the world? Like, you wouldn't do it for anything. Are you okay, Lotus? See you like
I
it looks like
I
you're trying.
guess
Yeah, go ahead.
doing this type of job gives you freedom where you're able to travel to different places. You can kind of take your work wherever you'd like to go and still be able to do it. So that's one thing that I love about being in the industry, and it's one of the reasons I wouldn't never like to change the job that I'm in.
No, yeah, I'm good. I just had a phone call coming through, so I had to stop it. That's all. But as far as things that the industry is moving, yeah, it's like I would say opportunities. You know, as you're younger, thinking about, oh, like, what do I want to be when I'm growing up? Like, you have to pick like one or two things. Like, you think you have to settle on one idea. But, when I got into sex work, all the ideas that I used to have growing up, I was able to accomplish them. Like, I've been able to like write articles in magazines, like do modeling, write things, like write for people, do directing for movies, producing for movies, do advocacy, get flown out to do advocacy and paid to speak, like all these things that I thought had to be separate goals in life. I've been able to kind of achieve them all through my path in sex work. So I'm really grateful for that, because there's so much more that I'm still going to be able to achieve and hope to achieve. And all of this has come to me because of, the confidence that I got to be as creative, to pursue many different things. But just also I guess the the opportunities to be in places to meet people to where these other things are possible. So yeah.
Is it just me left to answer the question?
think-
Can you
Yeah.
tell me that question one more time?
Of
'Cause I have to
course,
answer the
yes.
door.
Absolutely. So the favorite thing about being in this line of work, like something or some things that you just wouldn't trade for the world, like that you have
Yeah,
immensely,
okay.
positive impact on your life.
Freedom of choice. I can absolutely choose who I want to work with, how I want to work with the person, if I still want to work with the person. I can choose how people see me online as well. So I have like full freedom. Entire persona I created is just what I wanted to people to see, and I can play with it, and I can create fantasies for people. What is really nice feeling to be someone's fantasy as well. So I love the freedom that we have, the entire flexibility. We can work wherever and however we want in any part of the world. And technically, if we are clever enough, we can also take off whenever we feel like we need a little space and time, because we can easily prepare for it, and we can technically even retire whenever we feel like retiring from it. But since our image can work for us endless time, even when we are not performing, like we are not doing the performance right now, I can still like sell my content. I can still do many things with it. So it's really good to have so much freedom and flexibility in your life. And I wouldn't change that for 9 to 5 type of thing.
The thing that I think probably value the most, that I just absolutely couldn't do without, is the sense of sort of being self-possessed and being confident in how I can navigate through situations, not just like self-confidence, but confidence in negotiations and just the important shit, you know? Like, I feel like I've learned a lot as a chameleon who's had to sort of like pass through different settings and different social spaces over the years. And I feel like it's really helped just fine tune my ability to kind of successfully and politely interact with people in the world. I don't know. Sorry, now my COVID brain is like really kicking in, and I'm going to stop talking.
That is totally fine. Yeah. Oh, I think everyone kind of shared a common thread. Definitely a lot of freedom is involved, and some people don't know what to do with that. I think there's a lot of people that they could not hang in this industry because they would be like, I need somebody to like put 10 things on my desk and tell me how to do it in order. But I think, the freedom, it seems to work for so many people's lifestyles. There are people that under like a boss or management would absolutely like, yeah, well, exactly what Lotus did, just the hands up and yeah, I think a lot of us like, can we make it happen? Sure, but does it
That is
contribute?
what happened. That's why I started doing sex work. I tried doing all these different variety of respectable jobs throughout my 20s, and they were just not fulfilling and not leading anywhere. Like climbing corporate ladders take years, and I don't have years to achieve like the goals I want to achieve, not in that sense, like not butt kissing sense. So yeah, that was definitely my experience. Like I threw my hands up and I was like, I need something that I can do on my own, like on my own, just on my own, like my own decision making, my own time, definitely my own time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of y'all are, but I'm like, I've worked under bosses and I have some corporate stuff going on because, therapists, we have our guidelines that we have to have. But I am belligerent, and like I totally felt that, like, ugh, because it can be hard because there's so much stuff that goes on with a classic job. And I'm not trying to say sex work is for everyone and everyone can do it and it's the answer to all your problems and it's easy. No, that is not what I'm saying at all. But the freedom that I think the people who use it well, I think it contributes to some better mental health outcomes, because when you're having to, like Lotus said, butt kiss, and when you can't get these opportunities to travel or be flexible or get time off, some people can cope. A lot of people, like, that's truly killer for them to not be able to do that. And I've heard a lot of people, especially with invisible disabilities or like chronic illness, that are like, I'm so glad I'm here because I don't have to deal with like inaccessible places, people bugging me about my personal, issues and details. You can just do your thing and set the limits as best as you can, So what would y'all tell someone new to the industry to, and you can kind of take this question however you'd like, but to inspire them, but also keep it real. Like, let them know what the industry is like, having that sense of positivity, but also like, this isn't just jump in and you'll make $1 million and be all great and cool and never have a problem. What do you think you would tell them?
First and foremost, never do something you would be ashamed of or doesn't feel like right for you. Never let people pressure you to do things or cross your boundaries. Always do something what you've been willing to do, even regardless of it was paid or not. And then, on top of that, be aware that your family, people around you will find out. So don't do something you would feel ashamed they knew that you did. Because a lot of young talents get into industry and they like speed run things and try to do like the most obnoxiously extreme porn and stuff like that just to build quickly their name and such, and that doesn't work like that. And then they leave as soon as they quickly show up and quickly disappear, but this porn will be there forever. So it's a little different when you choose the line of sex work that you feel like you can easily say to your, I don't know, mom, husband, whatever, hey, I do this and this, and not feel ashamed of it, because this conversation will happen eventually. There will or won't happen, but you will know that they know, and it will make you feel uncomfortable the second you realize you did something you don't want them to see. So be careful what sort of line of sex work you pick. Don't rush your levels. Don't rush your work. Let it like unravel for yourself and like discover it and do it step by step. Never let fan base or other I don't know, producers or anybody to tell you to do something if you don't feel like doing it. It's better to cancel a scene than do something and then regret it for the rest of your life.
I totally agree with what Sabien said. I think believe in yourself. Like when me and Callum started in the industry, and we reached out to some like studios and were told like we would have to film with other guys and people would get bored of us just filming together. It was something we chose to stay true to ourselves and was going to just film together because that's what we wanted to do. And it's worked out for us. So honestly, just believe in yourself and like Sabien says, do what you feel comfortable with and don't let anyone tell you anything different.
Yes, I agree with both. Like Sabien's advice was really, really good, like really good. So all of that, and then just, think of why you originally got into this industry, because there's going to be so many influences coming at you from so many different directions. Like trying to tell you do this, do that, whatever, but always just keep in mind why you got in this industry and let that steer you. Don't let it just be like the money, because the money is not satisfying enough. It has to be like your inner, you know, drive and desire, whatever that is, like sexually, that like turns you on and gets you going. But yeah, this industry can be a lot of fun. You know, it can be a lot of heartbreak too. But you just have to be a strong person. Like you have to be resilient, because there's going to be a lot of extremes highs and extreme lows, extreme money making moments and extreme like not making a lot of money moments. And you just have to be able to be resilient and know how to bounce back through all of the different tides that this industry will take you to.
I would say your money is your money. The first few months are going to be pretty great, so don't squander it. Make sure you can stretch it out, save a lot, and your genitalia also belong to you. You do not use that to make someone else money out of your cut. You look out for yourself first and foremost, your health, your well-being, and everything. Just sorry, interrupted. So yeah, and then you have autonomy, you have agency, you can decide what you want to do in your career, and that's the most important and most beautiful thing that I can think of.
Such awesome sentiments to end on, which are true. Obviously, I am not still in the industry, but I would always tell my clients, I'm like, you know, you can't trade your self-worth for money. If someone is treating you a certain type of way, if you're, you know, you've got someone bullying, harassing, stalking you, demanding things, stepping over boundaries, like instead of saying, well, I'm new, so I can't really set my limits, like I find that when people do is when they actually find their clientele that gets them, respects them, compensates them accordingly, and, you know, supports them. And then that helps you build your name and build your credentials. And that it's crucial, of course, in the beginning, it's never easy. Everyone has a beginning story in the industry, and it's usually like anything else, you know, it's a bit of a struggle bus for a little bit, and then eventually you a little more smooth sailing. But I heard stay true to yourself, stick to your boundaries, you know, stick to your guns, however you want to put it. You know, you have to survive, and that even if you don't feel like you deserve it, or, you know, fake it till you make it, seriously, treat yourself as you hope you will want to treat yourself. If you put that out there, to start helping build that confidence and keep it going. So on that note, the last couple minutes, as we eventually are going to change hands over to the next person, I always like to give folks an opportunity to get in any last minute easy quick questions. And all the panelists, if you'd like to share your, you know, socials or any information like that, obviously feel free in the chat so people can kind of pick up on that and follow you, or however you might like to do that.
Oh, my chat only goes to the host.
No.
But you could follow me at It's Lotus Lane. That's on any social media. So it's the @ symbol ITSLOTUSLAIN. And yeah, this was a nice talk. It's so good to hear you, Ella, even though you're like going through a sick moment right now. I feel so bad for you, but I just like love that you're so amazing and professional that you still show up and like give like amazing answers. So yeah. Also nice to see you, Sabien and Callum Cole, and Rachel. Thank you for being a great moderator.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all so much for having us. Sorry if I escaped the realm of sense making at some point, because oh my gosh, I'm a steaming hot mess over here. But you can find me online. I'm at ELA Darling. My OnlyFans is free. I stream Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch most Monday nights with my friends. And that's all the brain I've got right now.
Hey, we appreciate it. All of you have been so lovely. Thanks for chatting with me and putting up with me. And Ella, seriously, you're more articulate than I even understand how to be. And I don't have COVID right now. So props to you.
You're very kind. Thank you.
And then if you need anything from me, just contact Pineapple or find me on Twitter or somewhere. I'm constantly around. So